Hi everyone, and welcome back to week 5 of fashion sketching. Today we're going to be talking about layers and what exactly layers means in terms of fabric or design, and more importantly how to draw them and how to express them differently. So let's jump right into it. Okay, so when we genuinely talk about layers when it comes into fashion, we're talking about a piece of fabric that is over another piece of fabric. And that could be interpreted different ways. It depends on you as the designer, right? So in this picture, we have a layered skirt. And obviously, if you look more closely towards the bottom here, that's when you can kind of see there's definitely a underlayer and an outer layer to this garment. So that's what we mean when we're talking about layers to a garment or clothing. And this is just one type of layer, right? Even though I can see at the bottom that there are 2 layers, there may be other layers in this gown that I can't see looking from it, straight on. There might be layers underneath to give it more of that like poofiness that are hidden by the 2 layers that we see, just looking at the picture. So this is one type of layered, a layered garment that is an example of what we're going to be doing. Okay, a next example would be something like this. So I don't know if you can tell, I'm trying to get the lighting a little bit easier. I don't know if you can tell that there's a lot of asymmetrical layers. So unlike the other garment, the layers are multiple, not only multiple, but I can totally see them, right? So this is the top layer here. We have another layer that kind of comes out underneath. Then we have this big high-low layer, and then you see something that might be the lining underneath all of the garment. So this is another example of how you can work with layers as far as designing and also as far as sketching. So all of these layers are something that I can see with the eye versus our previous dress. I couldn't technically see all of them. And that's up for your interpretation. This is just another example of layers, just in an asymmetrical garment. Okay. Another type of layering could look something like this. This is what we're actually going to go ahead and sketch today. Just simple skirt that has 1, 2, right? 2 layers, maybe a 3rd layer underneath, but we're not so much going to focus on that. We're just going to focus on the 2 layers that we see straightforward. So this is a more simpler look, and this is also what we're going to be sketching today. Another example of layering could be like this. You see a bunch of staggered layers. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9 layers in this garment, and they're all visible, right? I can see all of where they start and where they end. So this is just another example of what layers look like. Another example of layers is not so much more the horizontal, but the vertical. So basically how this garment was put together, the layers, instead of being sewn this way, they were sewn downwards. They were sewn like this, so by the time they were able to lay, talking about gravity, it would give this kind of like wiggly, kind of chopped up look. So we talked about different types of layers, so now we're going to talk specifically about what we're going to be sketching. So as I said previously, we're going to be dealing with this skirt as our bottom, and I'm going to show you how to, you know, capture these waves, kind of these waves that you see here, the folds of the skirt. And then for our top, we are going to again practice about the button-up shirt. Last week we did the cuff where it was straight down. This week we are going to do the cuff where it is rolled up. And I'm not so much going to focus on the collar just yet. I kind of want to save that for another video. So make sure that when you are sketching and you're turning in your sketch, you can use different varieties of techniques that you see here, but the one thing I really want to see is what I'm going to show you with this cuff and some type of layering in the skirt like we see here, okay? Alright, so we know what we're going to sketch today, so let's get to it. Alright, because our shirt is going to be tucked in, we're going to go ahead and tackle the skirt first. So, just like we've been doing, I am going to draw my smiley face, right, slightly out of both sides of the lines of her body. Then I'm going to make my upside down L on both sides. Okay. Now this picture does have a waistband, so I'm just going to go ahead and draw my second smiley face line to show that there's the waistband. And now I'm going to draw my first layer, which seems to drop about here at at the crotch area. So again, using that hip as kind of like an anchor to gravity. Alright, and you notice I'm coming out a little bit. I'm going to come back on both sides, come out a little bit. Okay, now before I do my L here, like this, I just want to go ahead and come in a little bit from where I ended and just create that second layer already. The reason being is that if I were to make my L already, then it would be kind of cutting off that layer and it wouldn't look right. So I just decided that I'm just going to make the line to where my other layer is going to be so that no lines kind of cut each other off. And I'm going to go ahead and make my L on my second layer. So just like that. Okay, making sure when I make my L that I'm touching her body, not going past it, okay? So for this L, instead of touching her body, I'm going to touch that second layer. So it kind of looks like, almost like that. Okay? So now we're going to work on the kind of flow of the skirt. Okay, we have a very like flow-like skirt. So instead of just making a one smiley face line, I'm gonna make and interpret these waved lines, these folded lines. Okay, which we're gonna be using the same method that we did last time, where it's just gonna be that nice up and down, side to side S motion. Okay. And it doesn't have to be exact. There doesn't have to be a way you you do it, right? I was pretty large in some areas and small in others. It just kind of depends on what you prefer, you know, what you prefer in the design. Sorry, those are my dogs in the background. All right, so now that we did these like kind of squiggly lines at the bottom, we're gonna do the same thing at this, on the top layer. We're just gonna now it's totally up to you how you want to interpret the layers, but I mean, just as a tip, if you kind of do the same thing that you're doing at the top layer that you did at the bottom layer, it just kind of makes it look a little bit more realistic. If not, that is completely fine as well. All right, so we kind of did the squiggly lines. I'm going to go ahead and do the behind her fabric, just kind of like that. Okay, and now we're going to fill in those lines to make them look more realistic. And if you remember from last video, how we did that is every curve we see, we just kind of took the line upward with every curve we had. Okay, just took a line, drew a line with every curve we had. Now it kind of looks like a layered skirt. All right, so now let's recap what we did. So our first tackle was the waistband. So we did a line here and a line underneath. Then we went ahead and we did our upside down L's on each side. Then we started to draw the sides of the skirt, making sure to flare out a little bit. Then, trying to create the second layer, we went ahead and drew a line from where the first layer ended and then made an L into the body. So where the first layer ended, went in, did an L to the body. Then we came back and did an L to close off those layers. Then we did our kind of squiggly S lines to create fullness on both layers. And then to finish off that fullness, we drew the lines upward. Okay? So now let's look into the shirt. Okay, so this is the recap of our shirt. What I'm going to tackle today, again, like I said, is this folded up sleeve. And also, why don't we just do the pocket as well? I'm not going to really tackle this collar situation. I'm just going to go ahead and make that look like a straight line. We'll tackle the collar situation in the next video. Okay? So let's get on to it. Alright, so starting at the neckline, we're gonna go ahead and draw our V's. And do our L's. Because it's a button down, I'm gonna draw one V longer than the next and come down. Now it seems like the fold comes at her forearm. So for this side, it's just kind of going to be following her arm. Give a little definition there for some fullness of it. And then for this side, we're going to just come down right before her forearm and stop. Okay? Now we want to create the fact, we want to put in the fact that the sleeve is folded, is rolled up, right? So my first tackle is going to be making an upside down L from my 2 lines. So from my 2 lines here, my 2 lines there. Upside down L. Then I'm going to come straight down past where I had put my kind of like stop line and create that other L. Then I'm going to create my smiley face from corner of L to another corner of L. And now it looks like it's been rolled up. You can also, if you want, add like a little like detail here, maybe like a check mark or a line to insinuate the fabric is kind of bunching a little bit. That's up to you. So now that we're done with the sleeves, we're going to come do the torso of it, just like we did in the last videos, right? Button up kind of drags out a little bit. Kind of gonna make some wheelie lines to insinuate that it's pulled out a little bit. I'm gonna do my buttons just as we did in our last video. And then I'm gonna do this pocket. Now the pocket, when you look at it, it's a square, right? So all we're gonna do is draw a square. You have your little pocket. So this is kind of, let's look at our finished look. All right, so this is our finished look. We covered how to draw a cuff to make it look like it was rolled up. We talked about how to tackle 2 layers, like one is on top of the other. We talked about more, just a recap of the bagginess if something was tucked in. And we kind of focused on a little bit of detail, buttons and pocket. Now, you guys have been doing an amazing job turning in your garments, but let's keep in mind the techniques that we're going through every day. So you don't have to turn in this exact same garment if you don't want to. If you do want to turn in the exact same garment, that's fine too. I know in the beginning I was a little bit confusing when it came to that, but if you just want to turn in this exact same one, that's completely fine. If you don't, if you want to draw something else, that's fine too, but I would like for you to implement the stuff that we are covering in the video too, just so that I make sure you're understanding it and you're practicing it and how to get to it. With that being said, you guys are doing amazing. Keep it up. I hope all of you guys are staying safe and productive in this time of uncertainty with how everything's going right now. But again, just know that it's just a moment and the moment will always pass. So with that being said, I hope to see you guys next week for week 6. Bye.